Hey there, everybody. It's your girl Barbie J here with the recap and review of Power Book 3 Raising Kanan, Season 3 Finale, Episode 10 Made You Look. And this episode was filled with so many twists and turns and things you didn't expect or whatever. Even the ending was surprise. I'm telling you, this show is all that and then some. I don't know why it doesn't get enough more play. But the synopsis for this episode reads, desperation sets in as Howard tries to evade the task force, and Ronnie goes on the attack, leaving Rock and Kanan to make some fatal choices, and those choices they made were definitely fatal. And before we get into it, if you are new here at this channel or if you are old here at this channel and have not subscribed as of yet, please take a moment right now and hit that subscribe button, then hit the notification bell and select all. It will let you know every time I upload new content to this channel. Then I ask that you smash that like button, write a comment, join the conversation, y'all, and share because sharing is caring. So, this episode starts off with Lou. We see Lou and his eyes are closed. They started off making you think that Lou is in a casket or something. But come to find out, he's at a therapy session and Rock is there with him. So they did not kill their little baby brother, which I didn't think they would do. I knew they were going to get homeboy help. And he's at this therapy session and Rock is telling the therapist that she don't believe in therapy and all of this stuff. She's going on and on back and forth. And the therapist is letting her know that she's there because he asked who was the most important person to him in his life and that he would want to have here. And he said Rock. And Rock looked at him like, really? She said, but I love my baby brother too. He my heart. He my this, he my that. I love the way she talked and stuff. So the therapist asked her what she thought was going to happen when she dropped Lou off there. And she said, I thought y'all was going to fix him. I don't know how you do it. I just needed you to fix him. I said, oh my goodness. So the therapist said, I'm not a repairman, Miss Thomas. He said, the only person that could fix Lou is Lou. And so Lou had a little tear going down the side of his face and thinking about his family and how he messed up. And I think they made a little breakthrough with this. There was a lot of back and forth, but I'm not going to get into that here. So when the session was over, Lou and Rock spoke outside. They were by her car and they were talking, and she admitted some things that the doctor said that he was probably right about her. And then Lou admitted some things that Rock said about him that he felt she might have been right, like he's his own man and he made his own choices. So they had that little talk and they said goodbye to each other. They hugged, and both of them, I mean, that hug touched me. I thought they both was going to start crying and fall apart because I know my eyes teared up. But it was an emotional hug. It was love felt, you could tell. And before Rock left, we found out that he might be there like a couple of more weeks. So hopefully Lou will heal and get back to who he was. Or should I say a better version of who he was or he wants to be. So now this next scene had me a little confused because I wasn't sure who was in the casket. It was Gerald's oldest daughter, I guess, and she's standing there in the cemetery with the priest and like two other adults are there, and they're reading like scripture. And I'm like, well, who's in the casket? Is it her father or is it her sister? You know what I mean? Because he died the next day or the same day as the little girl he killed himself. So who is there? And then when they pan the camera over to the driveway of the cemetery, you see Marvin standing there because, he felt for Gerald, but Gerald tried to screw him over. And who rolls up but these FBI agents talking about, that's your fault. You killed him. He was tore about you and the people you were hurting. And Marvin's like, get the F out of here. He told him Gerald wasn't made for what y'all was doing, but y'all didn't care. Y'all were too busy trying to set me up for something I didn't even do. And I said, Marvin's so right about that. They didn't care. And they're like, just because Gerald gone doesn't mean we're going to lay off of you. And he was like, whatever. And he got in his car and drove off. Now, this next scene was interesting because we got Kanan in bed with Crystal, or should I say in mattress with Crystal, because they ain't got no real bed. They on a mattress. Anyway, she's like, so are we boyfriend and girlfriend now? And he was like, we kicking it. And she was like, all her face was all upset and twisted and said, well, you said we had to keep it quiet because of Juke and you didn't want to mess up Butter. And I'm like, hold up, wait a minute. If he said that to her, why is she going to try to have Jukebox beat up? And why she kept trying to make sure they saw her with him? So I don't know about that line about trying to keep it quiet. Anywho, she said, Nakia is saying she don't think the group's going to work out anyway. So, like, we don't have to keep it quiet. And he's like, look, I ain't trying to talk about this right now, Crystal. I just want to smoke this blunt. And she was like, my period's late. And he looked at her like, say what? So now this next scene was really sweet. It was Jukebox meeting up with Aisha in the park. And Aisha was pissed. Like, I shouldn't even be talking to you. I called you for 2 weeks every day to see how you was doing. You didn't even get back to me. Now you come calling me now and to meet you today, and I cancel all my plans. So she asked Juke how she was feeling, and she's like, oh, the police, they were just pushing up on my family, blah, blah, blah. She said, that's not what I asked you. I asked you how you doing. And she still didn't really answer it. She just said how it was mad embarrassing for her to be taken out of the place like that. And she said it was all about her family. And Aisha told her, I know. And she said, you don't never have to be embarrassed around me, Juke. She said, because I know who you are and I love who you are. And then she kissed her on the lips. And Juke was like shocked. You know how Juke does that shocked look, like she's surprised and stuff. And she's like, for real? And she said, for real. She said, but you was with Kanan. She said, yeah, I was with Kanan because I think I had feelings for you that I really didn't understand. And Juke told her, I never thought you had any kind of feelings like this for me. She said, well, I do. She said, I think maybe I was just scared a little. And I truly believe she was. So now we in a room in a precinct with Cap, Agent Tanner, Detective Howard, and his union rep. And they are letting him know they doing everything by the book, which is clearly not your strong suit. I said, oh, snap. So anyway, he's trying to talk himself out of this mess, and they're tying more things together, like the fact that Detective Howard had a lookout for Lou, which is Marvin's little brother. They was tying all of these little things together. I'm telling you, all of them. And it wasn't looking good. Because at the end of this conversation, Cap asked for his gun and his shield and told him he's on modified duty. And his union rep looked over at him and said, it's only temporary. And before Agent Tanner left, he told Malcolm Howard, you got 2 days to get back to us with that information. And if you don't, we're going to issue a warrant for your arrest. And Malcolm was pissed. You notice I took the detective away because they done took his badge and everything. He ain't a detective no more. Anywho, next we had this quick scene where Marvin went to see their family attorney trying to get some advice and stuff. And he's like, if you want me to go over there and shake some trees, I'll do that. He said, yeah, while you shaking them trees over there at the feds, he said, tell them they barking up the wrong effing one. I said, Marvin be cracking me up with his sayings. But that was a quick scene because then the next thing we see Rock driving in her car. She stops at a red light. She's looking at the park at some kids playing, maybe thinking about her son, who knows. And then another car pull up next to her. And they roll down the window and start unloading bullets on her. She had to drive off. I think she passed the red light or something, and she took off going. I said, I told y'all this episode was action-packed. It was action-packed and full of twists and turns and surprises. I'm telling y'all. And the only reason she got away is because their car knocked into another car that was coming through the intersection, and she jetted out. But they showed her foot press on that gas. All you saw was smoke. Rock was gone. Now, this scene here made me sad. It was breaking my heart to look at Jukebox crying. She had tears running down her face as she's in the diner talking to Aisha and telling her about she's going into the army. And Aisha was like, how come you just now telling me? And she said, because she thought while the group was doing good, everything was going to be good. But she said, as long as I stay here, this ish with my family is going to follow me. And it's going to hurt anybody or anything I care about, including you. And she said, I can't let that happen. And she's like, but what does that mean for us? And she said, I just found out there was a us today. So she said, I'm still going to go. She said, that's the only way I'm going to feel safe around them. And Aisha said, you might be the only person that joins the army to feel safe. And I started laughing. I said, that is so cute. She's so right about that. But Juke was just letting her know how much she appreciate hearing Aisha say that she's going to wait for her and be there for her until she gets back. And Jukebox told her, you won't. And she said, and I wouldn't want you to. And I was like, oh my God, this is like a freaking love story right here. I'm falling apart, y'all. Anyway, then we switched to a scene and we got Famous banging on Kanan's door. Boo, 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 boo. Yo, it's me, Fame. Open up. You okay? Open up. And Kanan opened the door like, what the F you knocking on my door like that? And you see Crystal in there crying and stuff. And he said, I wanted to make sure you was all right. He said, why wouldn't I be all right? He said, you don't know? Somebody tried to hit Rock, Kay, a effing drive-by. And Kanan hurry up and went in the hallway and closed the door so Crystal couldn't hear what was going down. So Famous gave him all the details. And Kanan said, what? That crazy mother effer. So now these doggone feds gonna show up to the rehab place to bother Lou. I'm like, geez, y'all don't even care about nothing. Lou wasn't giving him no information. He told him the same thing that Juke said, that my brother don't F with no police, and all of that. And he said, you know what, y'all? The truth is, I don't remember much from the last 6 months. That's why we sitting here in the MFing rehab. I said, tell him. He said, so unless you're going to go through the 12-step program with me, there ain't nothing much more for me to say. And Agent Tanner said, fair enough, Mr. Thomas. Then had the nerve to ask him who's paying the bill for him to stay at that rehab place. And he said, you acting like I can't afford it. He said, well, most addicts can't afford something like this. He said, I drink the cheap stuff. I said, oh, snap. Lou is funny. So now we have Marvin coming to see Rock, and he lets him know he's out on the street that Ronnie did it. He's responsible for it, and that he works with Kanan. And she's like, you ain't got to tell me that. I know who he works with. He said, but Kanan would never do this to his mom. He would never do this. And Rock said sometimes people save their words for the ones they love the most, So she told him, we're not going to rain back on him. I'm not getting into a war with my son there. She said, I need you to go talk to Snaps and Pops. There got to be a conversation at first to see if we can work things out. So now we got Kanan coming in Pops and Snaps spot, pissed off. And he stepped to Ronnie like, you ain't never said nothing about hitting my mom's Igga and all this stuff. We supposed to be partners. You don't be making no decisions like this on your own. That you don't get to do that. This boy trying to make plays. And Snaps trying to cool him. No, we on the same team. Be calm. But see, Snaps and Pops is full of ish because they was up there getting in Ronnie's behind for not killing Rock. That he should have been doing the shooting. How you going to go after her and miss? And I said, look at these son of a guns. Look at them. They ain't ish. Then they call themselves calming Kanan down, talking about, look, Rock's okay. No harm, no foul. I said, what? He said, nah. I told you never to mess with my family. And Ronnie stood up and said, you don't tell me ish, little boy. And Kanan looked at him and said, this ain't what you think it is, Igga. And I ain't who you think I am. And as Kanan walked out, Ronnie just looked at him with a snarl on his face. Now we have this quick scene with Malcolm Howard in the mosque praying to Allah because he know he done messed up and his job is probably gone. He'll probably end up in jail and everything else. Then they switch over to the scene where police officers are busting into Famous Mama's house and they tell about they got a warrant for arrest for Famous. And he's like, what did I do? I didn't do nothing. This must be some mistaken identity or something. And they took him out and the mother standing there clueless like she don't know what to do. So now we have Marvin trying to talk to Snaps and Pops. And they basically saying they don't think a conversation is going to heal what's going on here because Ronnie is agitated that Rock put down that Colombian chick. And they're saying that both of them are hotheads and neither one of them are willing to negotiate. So Marvin's like, well, you know where this goes then next. And he's like, yeah, I do. And Marvin looked at him and then tried to walk away. And he stepped in front of Marvin's path. And Marvin looked at him again and then went and walked away again. I said, ain't this nothing? They about to start a war. And Snaps and Pops is right in the middle of that stuff, instigating it. Now we got Malcolm Howard going into Rock's house, to let him know that they putting together 2 and 2. They coming for us. She said, they coming for us or they coming for you. And he's like, I can't help to save y'all. Marvin gonna have to take the fall. And Rock looked at him like that ain't even gonna happen. Then it switches over to Juke and Kanan walking down the street talking. I said, well, all right. Kanan's back being nice to his cousin, ain't being an a-hole or anything. So Juke is letting him know that she's going into the army, and he's like, really though? But you see him looking around like he know that Ronnie crazy, so he probably on the lookout anyway. He said, but I wanted to meet with you to let you know I ain't had nothing to do with that thing that happened to Rock. He said, I wouldn't do that. She would do something like that. And he said, and you could let her know that I'm done with Ronnie because that fool crazier than even me, you know. And she's like, look, I told you I ain't the one to say what Rock did was wrong, was right or wrong or whatever. She said, but she loves you more than anything. And he said, not more than herself. She said, she loves you more than anybody. And that's when a white van rolls up and some men jump out and they grab Kanan. And he's yelling, I know this is Ronnie, this is Ronnie. And one of the guys is holding a gun right at Juke's head, like, I dare you to move. And she's just standing there looking at him. And they throw him in the van. It was 4 guys all together. And then they jump in the van and take off. And Juke turns and starts running to get help. So back at the precinct, we see Famous in an interrogation room with his mom, Ogden, and I think it's Chang. And they tell him, last week your mother turned in a handgun she found in your room. And Famous is like, Ma, what the F? You know? She's like, I found it and I get scared and I didn't know what to do. He said, you don't turn it into the effing police. And I'm like, right? I mean, of all people, ask your son where he got it from, where this came from. You know what I mean? And they sitting here trying to make her out to be a hero because she got a dangerous weapon off the street and she helped close a cold case. And that's where you come in, Sean. And I'm like, Ma, what the hell you doing up in his closet, in his room, opening shoe boxes for? You being nosy. That's what you were doing. You were snooping. So now, not only are you getting your son in trouble, but now you got to pay for an attorney that you probably can't even afford because you didn't bother to ask the question first. I don't understand, folks. So Famous was like, I bought that gun off the street off some dude for protection. He said, Ma, get me a lawyer because they trying to pin some stuff on me. And she's like, my son is not a murderer. And they said, we could do better than a lawyer. We could just work a better deal out. And she was like, I want a lawyer for my son. I was like, you finally said something right, lady. Then it switches back over to Rock and Malcolm Howard. And he's in there telling her everything he did, you know, was for her and the kid and all that stuff, you know, everybody he dropped, every lie he told, every crime. And she was like, man, I wish I was like some of you people always wanting to put all your problems on somebody else, blaming other people. He said, man, getting mixed up with you guys was the worst thing that ever happened to me. And I said, you know, I was thinking to myself, I said, that's all on him. He chose to do those things. Ain't nobody told him to do anything he did, but he's the one that had to be a snoop and get that little drop of Kanan's blood and run tests on it to find out that he was his son. And he did that. And he pushed to get into their life. He pushed this whole thing. Kanan is 15 years old, 16, whatever, and he didn't even know he had a son all that time. He pushed and did all of this, and now he got caught up being a dad, wanting to be a dad and a good father, and look what's happening. And I like what Rock said. She said the same iggers who be up there blaming me for stuff are the same ones who want me to fix stuff. She said, so how is it I'm the problem and the answer? I said, you better tell her, Rock. Tell him. And at this point, Marvin and Jukebox came running in and said, Rock, it's Kanan. And the look on her face of fear was like, what? And then it quickly switched over to Lou seeing the therapist. And he's letting them know that the feds came by to see him. And he said, looking at them made me realize I'm never going to be more than I've been. And he said, and who I've been is always who I'm going to be. I said, oh, that was so sad. Because after he left out of that office, he went and snuck into a janitorial closet and got an extension cord out of there. And he got in his bedroom and started trying to figure out a way to hang himself. He was pulling that thing and wrapping it around his neck and trying to pull it till he fell on the floor and just started crying. And I felt so sad for Lou. My heart was breaking. I'm telling y'all, it really was. So this last scene with Sean and his mama at the precinct. They in the room alone and she trying to get him to talk. I'm your mother. Tell me, did you do? He's like, no, I didn't do it. I'm like, woman, you need to know not to talk in these rooms. They got cameras and hidden mics and everything up in there. And he's like, that's what they do. They try to railroad you. And then in come Capt and what's his name? Agent Tanner. And they try to talk to Famous, saying he came in contact with Detective Howard one time when he got locked up before, and they wanted to know what the deal was, what transpired. And he's like, what? Are you kidding me? And his mother's like, tell him what they want to know, Sean. And he said, Ma, where's that lawyer? I want to talk to a lawyer. So now we got Rock, Marvin, and Malcolm going to see Snaps and Pops. And they're like, wonder why the cops is there and stuff. And she's like, look, I want him here because I don't want nothing else breaking out. He said, look, I'm just here as a friend, not as a police officer, just to make sure everything is good. And he's like, where's the kid? We want to know where the kid is. He said, I'm a friend until things make me feel unfriendly. And so they said, what does he want for the kid? And he goes, oh, he wants what you took from him, plus some extra cash. And he's like, they were like, how much? And he's rubbing his hands together like he's making up the dollar amount, like the cash is going to him. That's how it seemed like what Snaps is doing. He says 5. He's like, $500,000. He said, well, you know what they say, kids are expensive. I said, ain't this nothing? So they leave out the restaurant or wherever they are, and they like, you got that type of money? And she's like, nah, I don't have it, but I think I know who I could borrow it from. And so then she tells Malcolm, he don't have to be there no more. He said, I'm going to be there for the drop and everything to make sure you get the kid back. And she was like, okay, he said, because it's probably going to be the last good thing I ever do. And so she went to the Italian dude. Is his name Stefano, the one that had the fish store? She went to his house late at night to borrow the money. He wasn't sure at first. And then he was like, he going to have to tack on a lot of interest and all that stuff. And she's like, fine. And he said, I hope your son know how much you love him. And I think it was Marvin said, I hope he knows too, or something like that. And so he got the money for Rock and she went to make the drop. But I like that Stefano said he's making an exception to lend her the money because he got a little crush on her. And she said, I'm flattered. We know them Italians love them some dark meat. Stop playing, y'all. So Rock and Malcolm go to make the drop. They pat it down at the door. The money's checked. Ronnie's standing there. Kanan's behind him. And he's like, I would have never let no cop through. But Kanan told me who you are to him. And he says, scandalous ass nigga. And he said, it takes one to know one. We're here for the kid, not for the conversation. I said, I hear you, Malcolm. I like that one. So Rock's like, here's your money. Now give me my son. He said, I can't give you what's not mine. And Kanan walks up and said, y'all been played. He said, what? And Malcolm's like, you and Ronnie was in on this together? He said, yeah. And Rock is like, you don't know what you're doing, Kanan. He said, yes, I do. So Ronnie said, throw the money over here. She throws the money over there. He's looking through it. Kanan walks up behind him and shoots him in the freaking head and knocks and kills Ronnie. And then Rock runs, picks up Ronnie's gun, points it at Malcolm. And he's like, looking at her. He looked at Kanan. He said, you see this shit? And she went, pow, and shot him and killed him. I said, oh, my goodness, look at this. Look at this. And then the two guys came running in that was with Ronnie to see what was going on. And they came in with their guns drawn. And then Marvin came in behind them and he shot both of them in their back and killed them. I said, what the hootie the blowfish is going on? Meanwhile, Kanan's looking at his mother like, what you do that for? And she said it had to be done. Because remember, Detective Howard said a debt had to be paid or something like that. So it had to be somebody's life. He was putting it on Marvin, but now Rock took him out. So now it was his life that had to be paid. And now they can't tie anything else together. And Famous hopefully will get freed because of that, because there's nothing to tell. Detective Malcolm Howard, as we used to know him, is now gone. And then Rock told Kanan, come on, you going with us. So she grabbed the money and they all ran out of the warehouse and jumped into their cars and left 4 dead bodies laying there. Now, Detective Howard is going to really look bad because when they see his body laid on the ground next to 3 drug dealers, they already going to know that he was a dirty cop and it's going to look bad. But thank God he don't have no family to make look bad. You know what I mean? Because he had nobody else from what we understood from his life. So y'all see all the twists and turns I was talking about that was in this episode? I mean, this episode was great. But it didn't even end there, y'all. because as the suspenseful music is playing, they're showing the 4 dead bodies in the warehouse, and you see somebody's footsteps walking over there, and they walk right over to Ronnie's body, and they looking down at him. And as the camera pans up to the face, you hear the narrator, the older Kanan, saying, "One thing you should get from this, if nothing else, when you kill a Igga, make sure he's dead." And you see Unique. He is all busted up, looking bruises on his face, but he is healed. The scars are healing, and it is Unique. I said, I knew my baby wasn't dead. I knew he wasn't dead. I was holding out hope. I kept hope alive, y'all, better than nobody else. And I am so happy. So y'all let me know about this episode, what y'all thought about it. This was the season finale for season 3. So y'all give me y'all take on what happened, how you feel about it. And I will see you all in the next video. Please do not forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. It's your girl, Barbie J, saying peace.